Okay, so for this video what we're going to look at is converting fractions. So whenever you have a fraction and you're trying to figure out what is it in its decimal format, that's what we're trying to really do right now. It really helps out when a student doesn't really know how to break down fractions but knows how to break down decimals. So one of the easiest ones to break down is how much is half, how much is a quarter. What we're really doing is taking the denominator and dividing it into the numerator. In this case scenario, 2 goes into 1 how many times? 0. So, okay, I'm going to add a 0 back here. How many times does 2 go into 10? Oh, that's easier. 5. And as everybody knows, half, another way to say 1 over 2 or half is equal to 0.5. Same thing applies in another case scenario. You have 4 going into 1. Well, 2 can't go into 1. I know 4 can't go into 1. So, again, you add a 0. How many times does 4 go into 10? Well, it goes into it twice. But it only goes 2 times 4 is 8. And it gives you a remainder of 2. Well, pull the next 0 down. How many times does 4 go into 20? That's easy. 5. And so here we have the fraction half and also quarter being actually known as 0.5 and 0.25. So let's slide over a little bit. So if this is 0.5 and this is 0.25, how much would this be? Well, just using our brain a little bit, 8, 1, 16, that leaves me 125, and that's right, 0.125. I don't know if you noticed, but half of a quarter, or half of half is a quarter, and half of a quarter is 0.125. Just like in these fractions. Half of a half is a quarter, half of a quarter is 1/8, and half of an eighth is 1/16. Just looking at this right here, I can go ahead and tell you it's half of 12 is 0.6, and half of 5 is 25. So that's the decimal equivalent of 1/16. 3/8. I kind of like 3/8 because it kind of says its name, and I'll show you why. Well, 8 goes into 3 3 times. 6 remainder. 7 with a 4 remainder and a 5. That's supposed to be a 5. So it's 0.375. If I round it up to the second decimal point, it'd actually be 0.38. 3/8 is also known as 0.38. 3/4. 3/4 is double of 0.375. Well, if I multiply this by 2, I should end up with 0.75. 5/8. 5/8. 8 goes into 5 how many times? Well, 6 times. And that leaves me with 48. That leaves me 2, and that leaves me 16. So, yes, 0.625. Now, here's something that you could do to help out with figuring out something a little bit harder. Let's go ahead and erase everything that we don't need so far. We could figure out how much 7/8 is without even converting any fractions. 7/8 is 2 more 8s than 5/8. 2 8s, also known as 1/4. So if I added 0.25 to 0.625, I should get the equivalent of 7/8. In this case scenario, it should be 0.875. If it's not 0.875, there's something wrong. So let's do the math. 8 goes into 7. 64, yep, that would be 8. Give me a remainder of 6. 8 goes into 6. 56 times, that's 7. Up, there we go, with 4. 0.875. And so therefore, all I did was just add my decimals, 0.875. I added my decimals that I have already available for me. So this one is also known as 4/8. It's also known as 8/16. This is also known as 4/16. This is also known as 2/16, and so forth. All I'm doing is multiplying it by a certain number. And so multiplying your fractions and converting fractions are very good when it comes to trying to figure out what's the decimal equivalent.